Hi everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and specifically welcome back to my Masterclass series, which goes above and beyond my regular tank reviews to help you do more things like get ace tankers or your third mark of excellence in a specific vehicle. Today we're going to be looking at one of my favourite tier 8 premium tanks in the game. It is the Progetto 46. This was the first ever Italian tank inside the game, and I still think to this day it's one of the best premiums, especially for the frontline game mode. Today I'm only going to be showing you gameplay inside the random queue with multiple ace tankers, so you can get an idea of exactly what this vehicle is all about and how to master it. So firstly, I want to give you a little bit of a background on the Progetto, and that is that Wargaming significantly buffed this vehicle when they took away the gun rammer from all of the Italian auto-reloading tanks. Previously you could use a gun rammer on the Progetto, and so its damage per minute was not actually better. And the reason for that is that when Wargaming took away the gun rammer from the Progetto, instead of effectively nerfing it like they nerfed all of the other Italian auto-reloaders, they actually gave it a reload compensation, which is why its reload is so awkward these days at 7.2, 8.10, and 10.8 for each of the 3 shells, whereas previously I guess it would have been 8 seconds reload, 9 seconds reload, and 12 seconds reload on this tank. Now, before we dive into the gameplay, I want to emphasize just how important it is to master firing with auto-reloaders. And in the case of the Progetto 46, it takes 7.2 seconds to reload the first shell, 8.1 seconds to reload the second, but 10.8 to reload the third. What do you notice here? Well, ideally, you're only firing when it's fully loaded, but the second shell is not too much of a penalty. And so you should fire on reload either when you've got the tank fully loaded, or alternatively, if you fired one, fire the second, wait for it, and don't be afraid to fire the second one on reload if you've got an opportunity before going for the third, because you're only sacrificing 0.9 seconds on the reload, which is not the end of the world, as long as you're not going to get all in immediately afterwards. One thing that you must do with the Progetto, however, is only fire the third if you think you've got a kill lined up, or if you've got a long opportunity for downtime afterwards. Otherwise your damage per minute becomes awful and you will really struggle in this tank. Apart from that, everything's really simple on this tank. It's just got damage per minute, accuracy, relatively good speed, enough view range so you don't have to use coated optics if you use a premium consumable event, enough gun depression to work a ridgeline, and the only thing that really sucks about this tank is its armor is pretty awful, so you are going to have to use your firepower and your wits to be able to outplay your opponents rather than just sitting in front of them. With regards to the crew on the Progetto, the only crew member that truly needs to probably have a 0 skill is the commander, because they'll have to be the radio operator as well, which will put a lot of pressure on this tank. Other skills that I would recommend focusing on would be taking Deadeye. This thing pens a lot, and so Deadeye can massively increase your chance of critting your opponent. Designated target to keep them lit up for a little bit longer, and Snapshot can help on this vehicle with its relatively poor dispersion values. On your driver, it's pretty much depending on whether you're taking a fire extinguisher. I personally don't, so I like to reduce the chance that my engine's going to get set on fire. Smooth Ride can really help with the vehicle's poor dispersion values. The vehicle's pretty much fast enough that you don't have to worry too early about off-road driving or clutch braking on this tank. And the loader has absolutely no pressure on this tank. And it's even debatable about whether you need something like intuition on this vehicle, considering that really there's not too much difference between the AP and the APCR, plus trading 3 shells for 1 shell is not a very good trade unless you really need to save credits. Or if you're running low on ammunition, maybe you've only got 3 regular rounds left and you need to quickly switch to APCR, then that can be an option for you. Equipment wise, I think the Progetto 46 is really simple. I love vent, vert stabs, and a turbo on this tank. This will maximize your firepower, it will reduce your dispersion after firing so you can be more active and also unload 2 snapshots accurately within 2 seconds of each other, and the turbo on this tank gives it really good mobility so it can keep up with something like a Borask. My second build on this tank drops the turbo and also drops the vert stabs to focus instead on using a vision system and an exhaust. This is great for maps where you want to be exceptionally sneaky. And because this thing is rather large, even with an exhaust, it still only packs 30% concealment with a full concealment crew. And considering how large this tank is, you want to do everything that you can to hide it. And this is one of the things that really helped me to elevate my combines and be able to smash my third mark on the Progetto. However, if you're going to drop one of these aspects, I would drop the exhaust and use vert stabs instead, and then just use that on bushy maps and sacrifice a little bit of the mobility to be able to achieve this. It should also be mentioned, if you're a free-to-play player and you can't afford to use spaghetti with meat sauce for each of your battles, then you're going to have to drop one of these modules to put coated optics on the tank instead. Possibly the vents. Build mods wise, this tank is pretty simple. Firstly, take the module durability, then take the accuracy, then take the camo, and for the bonus slot, I would recommend scouting so you can improve your commander's vision system. Anyway, let's get stuck into some games. All right, so firstly, we're rolling out on steps, and you'll see that I'm using vents, vision system, and vert stabs on this tank. I feel like the vision system on this map will just give me the edge to be able to see my opponents at decent distances. Because remember, the vert stabs only, well, not the vert stabs, the vision system is not only useful at being able to win bushy locations, it's also useful for just spotting your opponents that are moving with reasonably good camo at decent distances. So when you're not using coated optics and you've only got like 450, 460 meters view range like I have on this tank, then if I want to see something that has about 20% camo when moving, like the Kampfpanzer for example, then the vision system can really help out. So anytime that I think that a lot of the fighting will not be close quarters combat and will be on the fringes sniping or just making sure that we can actually dig people out of the bushy locations towards the south of this assault map on steps, then I do feel like the vision system definitely gives me the edge. And you'll notice that we're not getting spotted getting into position, but that's nothing to do with me using the exhaust build on this tank. This will be before I really started to notice the importance of the exhaust, and at the end of the day it's just going to be a matter of preference as to whether you want to use the exhaust or the vert stabs on this tank. The vert stabs will allow you to be more reactionary and have a bit more firepower, but the exhaust really allows you to do things on maps like Malinovka and Muravanka and Prokhorovka that other tanks can only dream of. So you'll see that I'm just trying to get just as far back here behind this bush so that I don't have to expose myself when I fire. Now, do I fire the third? Do I fire the third? No, of course I don't fire the third. If I fire the third, my damage point is going to be awful. You'll see as soon as I reload the second, I fire. And that is because I'm saving like 2.7 seconds reload effectively by firing my second shell rather than firing my third shell and then reloading the third shell and firing the third shell and reloading the third shell. And so don't be too afraid to fire the second if you reload it, and don't feel that you have to reload the tank fully unless you think that you've got a real good opportunity, because quite often with the Progetto it becomes this mental process of deciding like a bird in the hand is worth kind of like two in the bush, because you might not get the ones in the bush, right? Whereas if you got one, then you might as well have it. But it's also a little bit tricky whether you want to try and be greedy in this situation. You'll see that I actually decided to fire a shell to be able to fully reload gold here, because the WZ-111-14 has decent armor. And it's just about being cheeky there, waiting for that opportunity and just trying to master gun control in this tank. And I honestly think that's the biggest thing that you will have to learn in the Progetto. And it's a great training tank for auto-reloaders as well, especially towards the upper end. That you can... It's a little safer to play at like tier 8. There aren't any tier 7 auto-reloaders, I don't think. Especially in the Italian tree at least. And so the Progetto can actually be really nice for any of you out there who are thinking, well, I'd like to try an auto-reload to see what it's all about. Because what's the worst thing that's going to happen? I guess you'll make some credits, because hopefully you're playing a premium tank. So here we can see, I just think the vision system's giving me the edge. I'd probably not have spotted that STA-1 unless I have the vision system. You can see as soon as they start moving, I managed to get it. Unfortunately, that second shell doesn't go in. I don't want to fire the third, because if I fire the third, I'm going to have no DPM. But I'm absolutely happy to fire the second in this scenario. But I feel like I didn't have a clean shot, so I might as well wait for the third shell to go into the vehicle. Unfortunately, it doesn't go in. This is actually outrageous. I'm not spotted, but I'm getting blind fired to all hell right now. Luckily, we managed to put one shell into the Caro. And you can see that this isn't going too well right now with this accuracy. Now, I guess some of you out there who really, really, really like sniping and only want to be as accurate as you possibly can, for those players out there, maybe you could use the enhanced aiming device on this vehicle. In this kind of a situation, I definitely want to fire 2 at the T-95, because if he turns to me, I'm not going to be able to probably penetrate. And again, like the double tap on this tank is half decent. But you really don't want to fire that third, otherwise you'll probably never be able to get the reload going or never get your like damage per minute going. So it's like it's a conundrum in this tank. But let me go back to what I was saying before I interrupted myself shooting at that T-95. And that is that some of you out there might do better with an aiming device on this tank. Because you can see like the vert stabs, they are helping me to deliver the second shot accurately. I am managing to get fully aimed to be able to finish off the Progetto 66 there for a second. But we are missing some of the shells that if we were using an aiming device that would improve our accuracy by like 6 to 9%, we might have been able to hit those as well. So at the end of the day, you should match what playstyle you think is right. Personally for me, it's going to be the vents and the vert stabs and the turbo for most maps, and then dropping one of those modules just to be able to give myself a little bit of extra view range. And most of the games that you're going to see today are actually going to be where I do sacrifice the turbo to take the vert stabs. Finally, I found a position where I'm not going to get spotted by the Caro if I manage to fire through here. It's just about trying to make this 9 degrees of gun depression work. I don't want to expose myself too much, but that looks just too juicy to fire. That should go to there. Do I get spotted? I don't, but gosh, is that Caro going after us. So this is a pretty nice game so far. Within the first 5.5 minutes, we've done 4,500 damage. This was the perfect example of just micromanaging your reload and trying to optimize. And I really like, I was waiting with this replay to use it in something like a masterclass video, because this is possibly the best example of like, should I fire or should I not fire, that I think I found in an auto reloader. There'll be some more examples later on. I was pretty annoyed at myself that I failed that boost there, but luckily the Progetto has enough grunt in the engine so that if we turn, we are going to be able to sneak our way up that slope. Could have been an absolute disaster there if that Caro had better view range, but thankfully they didn't have better view range, and so we managed to be alright in the situation. Oh, it's an easy kill on the IKV, picking up our second of the game, and now we're going to turn our attention to the Caro. It doesn't look like they're going to spot us there, so I'm going to advance a little bit further forwards behind this bush and miss. Oh, QQQ. But I'm going to wait. I'm going to take my time. Again, you've got to think about how many hit points the enemy is on. I need 3 shells to be able to finish them off, so of course I'm going to wait to reload 3 shells. And I'm just going to keep my DPM high here. Just going to keep firing blind. STA-1's making their way around the corner. I should be okay to fire at this player. You'll see that I tried to wait for as long as possible, but actually I interrupted the reload by 0.1 seconds, and that's something that you really don't want to do in your Italian auto-reloaders. So one thing that I'm going to do now is I think I'm going to make use of intuition, probably. Am I going to switch out my intuition shell? Please say that I do, because I should. Come on, baby. There you go. So I'm actually going to intuition switch. And it's actually quite nice to have intuition if you have spare loader skills, because I got to like instantly switch out the long reload shell, which was 10.8 seconds, and then I get to follow it up with 2 faster reload shells with the 8.1 and the 2.7. So now I'm going to critique myself here. I don't think I needed to fire all 3 shells into this situation. I know they're kind of outnumbered by 4 vehicles, but in retrospect, I could have easily just fired 1, and I think it was greedy to just dump in this damage. Look at this, I had more than enough time to even reload the second shell in this situation for the T95. I'm going to fire that. Am I going to go for the kill? I'm going to fire the third into the CC67. Do I think that I've got time to be able to reload another one? I saw he was taking a lot of shots, so I actually fire that. But I think I probably could have sneaked in an extra shell, possibly. And that's just... it's almost like a fun mini-game to play with yourself in the Progetto. It's like, should I fire, should I not fire? What is going to achieve me the most damage? Should I wait to be able to get the extra reload in? Will it give me another shot, or will it not? And when you're trying to smash combines, if just to be able to make a load of credits, or alternatively, you're trying to smash combines to be able to get yourself a mark of excellence, then that is something that is going to appeal to all of you high-end players out there as to what is the right thing to do. Nevertheless, this was 7,300 combined in 8 minutes. It's not bad for any tier 8 tank. This was a huge amount of credits I made in this battle. All right, so round 2, and once again I'm going to go for vents, vision system, and vertical stabilizers on this tank because I'm on a bushy map and I want to be able to see my opponents. It's a bit of a shame that I don't have the turbo here, and I think that again, I would probably benefit from taking the exhaust in this scenario, so I do have that extra camo. I've got to be really careful because I think I'm only packing about 24% concealment when moving in this tank. And while that is enough in a variety of situations, if you really end up against high-tier light tanks, you know, your tier 9 or your tier 10 light tanks, and they are set up with aggressive vision builds like a vision system and coated optics, you are going to struggle in a Progetto to be able to work bushes. And really, all of the big games that I have in the Progetto are where I'm dominating my opponents with regards to vision. Luckily, we're spotting the lion's not spotting us, and I'm getting some really good assistance here on the lion at the beginning of the battle. I'm also spotting the CDC with the vision system, and oh, hello, free ammo rack, although it was only worth 313. It's honestly just a huge joke that the CDC is even in the same class as the Progetto. This is pretty much just a CDC that has an auto-reloader, and it's pretty darn useful to have auto-reloaders in World of Tanks. Luckily, even the 24% camo or so that we have on this vehicle seems to be enough to be able to go after this lion right now. And the vert stabs will just give us that extra gun handling that we need over the exhaust. So again, it becomes a matter of preference. For hyper scout maps like Malinovka or Prokhorovka, I think the exhaust will be better. However, on like the more hybrid maps, such as this, or alternatively steps as we saw, I think it'd be best to run the vert stabs where you can focus on firepower rather than being fully sneaky. Again, it's a matter of preference, and I don't think there's one individual best way to play. It'll be just down to how you feel as a player. So if you're more aggressive, I would recommend something like vents, vert stabs, and a vision system for these kind of maps. But if you're more defensive, drop the vert stabs and take an exhaust instead to give you some consistency if you find yourself getting spotted in awkward positions, or if maybe your knowledge of bush mechanics isn't flawless and you need some extra camo rating to be able to make up for that. Gosh, I just love this tank, you know, with this build, just being able to outspot my opponents, but also able to just deliver huge amounts of damage to them. We shot that char, was it a couple times or was it 3 times? Looks like we shot that char 3 times there, and we did it while also not crippling our damage per minute. So I'm communicating with my team exactly where the Progetto is to see if possibly the Leopard or friends is going to be able to cross. I don't really want to get caught out and lose my hit points right now, but also we have a definitive advantage on the south of this map. And it looks like our team is losing the north, so we also do have to get stuck into the battle. The last thing that you want to do is to chill and relax and wait around. And I'm kind of tempted to blind fire at where the Progetto is. I was hoping that the Leopard was going to cross, but I can understand that the Leopard doesn't want to cross while the UDES is there. I see the char go in and I realize, wow, that guy is a gamer. He's gone right in, but unfortunately, look what happens to gamers sometimes. The char 75 shuts down the char 75 on my team gets shut down by the standard B, and then that follows up with the char 4 getting shut down by the char 4 on the enemy team. Luckily, I managed to finish off the char future 4 with a bounce, and then our Progetto is going to go in after this UDES, and I want to create a crossfire with him. Luckily, I'm able to fire underneath the tank there, so the Progetto finishes them off with the final shell. And you know what? Shout out to my team for having more confidence. I feel like a coward in this game. In retrospect, I played far too safely. Because look at the hit points. We're down by 3,000 hit points. We're down by 4,000, 5,000 hit points now, and a couple of kills. If we didn't push, that game was over. So my team did the right thing. And I feel bad that they laid their lives down to be able to push through this flank, while I played a little bit too safely there. Although I was kind of right to have the concern with getting hit by the Scorpion and the possibility of the Progetto unloading, the UDES unloading. Sometimes it's really hard to know about when it is time to push the tempo or not. And I'm very concerned about getting spotted by the standard B here. If I had the exhaust, I could easily cross for the corner, but I don't have the exhaust on this build, so I have to respect and use this bush. I can fall back here. Hopefully the standard B is going to mess up. There's 1 into his tank. There's 2 into his tank. I'm going to fire the 3rd as well. I think I am. I'm going to go all 3 because sometimes it is worth firing the 3rd if you have an opportunity to significantly weaken the enemy, or if you think that you're going to have a long time to reload. That's pretty much it. If you think that if you're in a 1v1, you probably should fire all 3 as long as you know you can control the engagement. Or in this kind of a situation, we've just got to try and get every kind of shot in that we possibly can. And if I know that I'm under no specific threat, then it's totally worth firing all 3. Plus, it allows me to switch out to now load gold. So do think about that as well. When you're starting to run low on your AP rounds in a nice matchup, or you're starting to run low on your APCR rounds in a horrible matchup and you're forced to fire AP, then definitely think about what kind of your reload timing, because it just takes so long to be able to switch out an entire mag. And the worst thing is when you're running low and then you kind of awkwardly think, like, should I hold 1 shell when you've only got 1 AP shell left in your Progetto? And so there is quite a lot to think about. Now, I've played like 1,000 or 2,000 games of Italian auto reloaders. So if it looks natural and it feels a bit overwhelming for you, just take it slow and just try and hear what I'm saying, and then put it into practice and build upon it yourself so you can try and improve your own decision making. But that is what is one of the beautiful things about auto reloaders in World of Tanks. I think that they highly reward a player who makes the correct decisions with regards to should you fire or should you not, or thinking about the engagements that you're going to get yourself into. Now, all tanks do that, but I think Italian auto reloaders, it makes and breaks a player with regards to their impact. Oh, this is just what you want to see at the end of the game. One of the most dangerous tanks on the enemy team, caught out of position and farmed by a WZ. But what's this? A near full health Progetto here with 1,143 hit points. They fired two, but I need to go after the standard B right now. Luckily, they don't manage to see me, but I see them, probably because of the vision system. Allows me to finish them off. Now turn my attention towards the Progetto. And just like that, we have got back into this game. After we were down by so many hit points. We've done 6,200 combined, and I'm hoping we can get a little bit more. So we put 1 into the Progetto, 2 into the Progetto, and I thought I would fire 3. And that is 3 into him, and I only received 2. Now I have to just make sure that he's not going to rush me, because he will have 1 shell, and he's already probably reloaded his second by now. So if he all-ins me now, then he'll be able to finish me off. As long as I can reload 2 shells, as long as I don't miss, it's still going to be who basically fires first as to who is now going to win this duel. In this kind of situation, I've got to be a little bit careful. I'm not sure how many hit points like my Leopard or my UDES 1516 are on, or if they're going to be a little bit silly. But I mean, with 7.5 minutes left on this game, it'd be pretty crazy. And look at that, look how free to play I am. I'm in a duel, like at the end of the battle, and I'm intuition switching out to fire AP instead of APCR. I mean, that might be a little free to play excessive. But yo, if it's going to change it so I don't have to fire 8,000, 9,000 credits worth of ammunition, and I only have to fire 860, which is what 2 AP shells cost on this tank, then all the power to me. As long as I guess I don't low roll or bounce a few shells, I should be okay, right? So sod it, let's go in and fight. And I think we fired at the same time, so I'm just going to let the chips fall where they may. But luckily the Progetto came in and finished him off, so we wouldn't have the embarrassing death at the end of the game. And there you go, 7,400 combined in the Progetto 46 with vents, vert stabs, and a vision system. I just love this setup on this tank for these bushy maps. If you know how to scout and release damage from locations, it's amazing. All right, now we're going to be rolling out our Malinovka encounter, and once again, we're going to be using vents, vision system, and vert stabs. Now on this map, I like to be aggressive. I like to take the fight to the enemy team, but let me clarify, this is going to be a risk. But I feel like it's such a fun way to play the Progetto. And this thing is fantastic at dueling. I will win like a 1v1 engagement against most tanks because I can fire 1 shot, reload, 1 shot, reload, 1 shot, reload, finish them off. And hopefully that's going to happen now against the Borask. I'm going to fire 1 in on the move. I'm unfortunately going to have to take 1 shell from the Borask. I'm going to have to take a second. I'm not going to fire right there because I wasn't going to be fully reloaded in time. And that's going to allow me now to put 1 shot into him. And am I going to fire here? No, I'm not. I'm going to have to reload. This is so important to do. Don't panic. Don't fire those shells. Just hold them one by one. And then, because I didn't panic and fire all of my shells, I'm now going to have the opportunity of engaging this Borask. And if I didn't have 2 shots, I was dead. But because I saved the shell and I had the 2 shots, I finish off the Borask. And just like that, we're up to 3,000 combined in the first minute of this battle. It was nice to actually get a good gun line behind me, but it's not all the time that a heavy tank would go down there. Usually what would have happened if the Borask and me would have had a bit of a duel, the Borask would have done 720 to me, and then I would have been able to fire 1, reload, 1, reload, and then depending on how lucky I've got with my rolls, I could destroy him with the subsequent 3 shells before he managed to get a reload of another magazine in. And that's how you're going to win your duels in your Progetto. What is there to say? I just love auto reloaders, and I love this tank specifically. I think this tank could have very easily had a 2.5 second intra-clip reload, and it would have been more balanced than it is. I'm not saying it's outrageously OP, but if you are a good player, you can definitely do some crazy things in this vehicle with the kind of control that you can put out against your opponents. Okay, so the reason why I want to win this position is that I can be sneaky and work my way up into these bushes. From these bushes, now I'm just really denying so much area to my opponents. And because I'm using that vision system as well, even the bushes or anyone who makes any kind of moves is most likely going to get spotted. And wow, I don't even get spotted in this position with that shot. Now, I'm not sure if it's me who's spotting this CS-52 lease, but it's me who's shooting the CS-52 lease. I'm going to fire 2, not going to fire the 3rd in, because remember that 3rd will absolutely destroy our DPM. And I've got to figure out, like, am I going to get spotted by this the Borsig here, not the Borask? I've obviously got a bit of trauma there from the Borask behind me. So what I'm doing right now is I'm looking at the Borsig to see if they're going to be able to shoot me. When I see they pull back over the ridge, I was just auto-aiming there at the CS-52 lease, and then I manually aimed at the 2nd one, I think, or maybe the 3rd. It's just about, like, just waiting and delivering these double taps. And that is what the Progetto is special for. The Progetto is special for the double taps. Very interesting that I actually decided to not fire there until he was behind the trees. But in retrospect, that was brilliant. It looks like past QuickyBaby's playing better than commentary QuickyBaby would have there. I think I would have fired and fallen back. And to all intents and purposes, I would have got shot by the WTF Panzer IV. And I decided to fire the 3rd there, because I guess I was maybe a little bit flustered, and I was annoyed that I didn't do any damage to the WTF Panzer IV. But again, sometimes, like as I said, a bird in the hand is worth 2 in the bush, so we can be able to guarantee a shot in there. So I was a bit surprised that the Borsig was up in that position and managed to spot me there. I'm driving away from the WTF Panzer IV to get out their render distance so that I'm not going to get hit by them. And I'm hoping that I'm going to hunt this Borsig right now. I tell the ELC even 90 that I'm going to be able to help them, and I'm a lucky dog. The Borsig fires an HE shell at me, probably with 150mm, and they don't manage to hit my tank, only hitting my tracks. So I'm going to fire the 2nd here, but I'm not going to fire the 3rd, because again, that 3rd's going to ruin our damage per minute. And one thing I would recommend with the Progetto is definitely don't be afraid to fire on reload for the 2nd. Don't feel like you have to wait for the 1st. Deliver that double tap, and then keep firing the 2nd until you can have an opportunity to recover the full magazine. But just be really careful with the 3rd, as I said, because of that 2.7 seconds extra reload that you're going to have for firing all of your shells rather than holding that reserve shell. So the Centurion 7-1 is on their way down the hill. I can't quite work out whether they're stock or not with 1,720 hit points. You have to be a bit of a Rain Man these days to try and figure out, like, is that the stock hit points? Is that not the stock hit points? To be able to remember everything. Are they using a stock turret? Are they using a durability device? Do they have field mods that be able to increase their hit points because they're a heavy tank as well? Yeah, it's a tricky one to be able to grasp, but that's really how you've got to take your game to the next level, right? So up to 5,000 combined here. I'm down to 175 hit points though. Wish I'd lost just a few more so I could have had adrenaline rush in this game, but that unfortunately is not the case. So I use an intuition switch here to be able to get a full magazine in. If you're wondering why I have intuition on this tank, it's because if you have a Lion, you must consider having intuition on your vehicle, because the Lion is the perfect tank for intuition. You reload the long shell very quickly, and then you've instantly got your highest DPM with the 2nd shell on that tank. So if you have an opportunity, you've got a spare cruise skill, I'd probably prioritize it over safe stowage on a Lion, honestly. I'd prioritize it over adrenaline rush. So I'd say intuition is probably the 4th skill you get after you've taken concealment, repairs, and brothers in arms on your loader. Then you want to start working your way towards intuition, at least in my opinion, on something like the Lion. And considering that it's most likely you'll be using your Lion crew on your Progetto, yeah, that's why I've got intuition on this tank as well. So just beautiful control here. I fire off 2 and then I start firing the 2nd. I feel like firing 2 is good in case you don't get the opportunity to fire anymore. And I think that's the perfect balance. Because you could argue, oh well, QB, if you just only fired 1 reload, 1 reload, 1 reload, you would have better DPM. And you're right, I would. But the thing is you can't always be guaranteed that you're even going to get that perfect opportunity of reloading all the way. So I feel like it's not too much of a loss of damage per minute to fire 2 shots in the Progetto, and you get all the benefits of, let's say, they re-stealth. Because you've got to fire 2 shots instead of just firing 1 and then waiting and then maybe firing another one blind and possibly not hitting them as soon as they disappear, and you realize there's no point of having 3 shells in your tank if you don't even get to use them. So once again, up to 6,400 combined in this tank. I just love it. This is one of my favorite tanks to play in front line. Well, it is one of my favorite tanks to play in front line, and it was definitely one of my favorite tanks to try and take my gameplay to the next level and hit my third mark of excellence on this tank. So with 4 kills now, I'm actually going to switch back to AP. I've got less AP shells. I've got less AP shells than APCR shells, but I guess what I'm thinking is that I can use the AP to fight the WTF Panzer IV, and then I can use my APCR shells later on for when I need to fight the Skoda and I need to fight the Type 4 Heavy. I get spotted and I expected it was a WTF Panzer IV, but it was actually a Cobra. He hits my gun, failing to damage my tank, misses the second shot, and I was just in a bit of a fluster. Cobra fires his third, and the Cobra, maybe, I think they've got 1 more shell left in the Cobra right now, and they actually bounced their 4th shell, and this was a satisfying moment for me. I counted them, and I knew that this Cobra's reloading, so as long as I can get away from the WTF Panzer IV, hopefully use this tree to be able to avoid his vision. Yeah, if I don't get caught by the WT right now, he's probably got about 20 seconds to be able to reload. I can't really worry about the WT right now. I just got to get my gun on target, finish off the Skoda, and then hopefully go after that WTF Panzer IV, who just took 1,000 damage clean. So, Control. We've killed a third... Well, Control. I say Control, but this game was snowballed from an aggressive start. And I think that that initial play definitely helped my team substantially. I mean, getting rid of a couple of tanks and then gaining a position of vision for your entire team is always going to help in World of Tanks. So I actually say, kill all. And I asked the ELC even 90 to come with me. Because, I don't know, man. You think that 6,500 is enough? Nah, we've got to get a little bit more right in this game. And hopefully my team is going to be able to finish them off. And there you go. Beautiful round for a beautiful tank. Okay, so now we're going to be joining the game midway. We've done 2,000 damage so far in the first 4.5 minutes of this battle. And you'll see that I'm actually playing very sweaty. I'm using full gold in this tank. Now, the equipment that I'm actually using is an exhaust with a vision system and vents. So I've actually dropped the vert stabs here. So I want to show you just how much worse the gun handling is. And you'll see how much more the reticle blooms out. And while it doesn't matter when we're in close quarters combat, or we have an opportunity to fully aim at our opponent, it definitely does hurt on this tank to lose the Bond vert stabs. In this kind of a situation, I wanted more from the game, and so I made an aggressive push play here. Luckily, it doesn't seem like it's the worst push play, as we managed to catch the Centurion 7-1, finish them off with an aggressive play. I didn't expect to take so much from the LT-432. It wasn't a Centurion 7-1, by the way. It was a Stridsvagn 81, not a Centurion 7-1. And it's just a little bit all hairy right now. But this is also a game where it was pretty darn close, and our opponents could easily push through the north. And so I would thoroughly recommend in a vehicle like this, if you have an opportunity to push and win a flank, it really does help you snowball the game. And it's all going to be like a risk-benefit analysis as well. Look, I am definitely cherry-picking some games here for you. I'm cherry-picking some games. For every time that you see me make a push, then maybe like 1 in 4 times or 1 in 5 times, it's definitely not going to work out. But I feel like the benefit in the Progetto is that it really needs some room to play. It really needs some space to be able to work with its vision, to be able to start to control the engagements as well. And I think just the worst thing that could ever happen on this tank is sitting, should we say, at a medium distance from its opponent, where it's getting spotted on a ridgeline and just trading in kind of like a hold down situation. So basically what was happening against the WZ-111-14 and the Stridsvagn 81. And so any opportunity that you have to be able to break that kind of an engagement can really allow you to then explode into the game. In this situation, I'm telling the Centurion 7-1 to fall back here, because the last thing that we want to do is to feed the ELC even 90 and the Char Future-4 and the T-32 and the UDES and the Kunzerpanzer. And I was on, I don't know, I think I was on like 94.9% marks of excellence, so I didn't want to die in this situation as well. We're down 2 tanks, 3,000 hit points, and it's just me, a Centurion 7-1 and a 122 TM, and 2 artillery against a whole horde of enemy vehicles. I tell now it's just down to like communication, right? Defend the SPG, 122, I come help you. And luckily the 122 TM starts a great defense here. against the Kunzerpanzer. And this is just like me in my environment right now, communicating, super try-harding, trying to get those last few shots in that I need for my third mark of excellence on the Progetto, and we're dumping rounds in. You see how we're not actually fully aimed in between our shells without the vert stabs. Even when I'm using vents, and I think I was even using a vent purge here to be able to further increase our crew skill by an additional, was it 1.5 or 2.5%? So this is kind of like a maxed out crew Progetto. And if the maxed out crew Progetto still can't manage to fully aim in between its shots, it really shows you the value of vertical stabilizers on this tank. I'd say that the vert stabs outweigh the aiming device, at least in my opinion, on this tank, unless you really have enough time to sit there and fully aim. But then if you're doing that, then you're not probably firing on your 2-second reload, and you're not playing the tank as an auto reloader, right? Alright, so ELC even 90 in the open unfortunately spots me, so I've got to be a little bit careful here. But if I have an opportunity to fight this Frenchie, I'm going to take it. We come around the corner, we trash the little French weasel, shutting them down, and that was a good moment for me because that was the last damage I needed to guarantee my third mark. But you know what? Doesn't matter if you've guaranteed your third mark. Why not we do it in an epic ace tanker win fashion? So I'm actually going to ask the artillery to help me and to be able to get an ambush shot on the char. And this is just trust right now. This is trust. The artillery says he's going to help me. I fire one shot. I tank a shot from the char. I know I've got the better reload on him. And I'm just praying, come on, Artie. Come on, Artie. The Artie actually takes a shot there instead of actually getting a shell off. And I put one onto the char. I'm going to fire the extra shell onto the char. The char misses one of his shells. The 122 TM is doing a fantastic job here. Up to 4 kills. Finishes off the 56 TP. And it looks like possibly that char is reloading. And it's just a great team effort here by our medium tanks. And also by the artillery for giving me that respite that I needed to be able to recover to go after this char fugitive 4. As the Centurion 7-1 has 4 kills. My 122 TM friend has 4 kills. I got a couple of kills, and the artillery had a kill as well. This is a monumental effort at the end of the game with 13 seconds left. The 122 TM's going in. I'm going to just let that guy have the hero moment here, possibly. It looks like he missed the hero moment, so if he's not hit the shot, we're going to finish him off. Boy, was I happy. I tried to invite the 122 TM to a platoon to be able to get cheeky Brothers in Arms medal, but unfortunately they weren't able to accept. And a big shout out to you, Riley, as well, in the WTR for Panzer IV, cheering us on from the sidelines there, saying, what a great job, fellas. Yeah, I got nothing more to say. That is why I love the Progetto 46. It just feels like this brawler that it has all of the tools to be able to control the situation. You know, fire one shot, reload. Fire one shot, reload, dump 3. Surprise your opponents. Confuse them a little bit, thinking, oh, well, what do I do? He's not firing all of his shells, and if he doesn't fire all of his shells, how am I meant to get that all in engagement against them? Or catch an opponent ill-prepared, dump out that mag, and then kite them to be able to recover again. There's so many ways to play this tank. And for me, at least, it's one of the most interesting tanks that you can play because of those possibilities. So this battle was our third mark of excellence on the Progetto for our 5,000 damage dealt, and all in all, my session to be able to 3-mark this tank was 5,000 WN8, 61% wins and 2,700 damage per game, with a lot of assistance because I focused a lot on the vision of this vehicle. With regards to how competitive it is across the player base, the Progetto occupies the 7th best win ratio of any of the medium tanks, and when you include the fact that the Mars and the Type 59 Gold is knocking it down a peg by only owned by exceptional players, and the Chimera as well, a reward vehicle, then in actuality the Progetto is pretty much 4th after the Borask, the Astron Rex and the AMBT. You notice how it's all of the autoloaders that are on top with regards to win ratio. And so this tried and tested Italian premium medium is definitely still worth it in the game today. And I really can't imagine a tier 8 matchmaker where the Progetto in the future is still not going to be one of the better ones unless Wargaming go even more pay to win. Anyway, ladies and gents, boys and girls, there you have it. A masterclass on the Progetto 46 and 4 gigantic ace tankers in this vehicle. Really hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you hated it, give it a thumbs down. And if you're watching this video as it goes live on Sunday, it's time for the World of Tanks Tech Tree Showcase. And this one, I'm not sure if I'm looking forward to it, as I'm going to be doing the first ever tech tree showcase on the British wheeled medium tanks. So come along if you want to see me start at tier 1 and work my way up towards the new Concept 5, so you can hear what a Brit thinks about British wheeled mediums. So really looking forward to seeing you all live on Twitch right now. And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.